Let's look what is volentinonfit injuria. In the law of torts, there is a duty on every person to do acts with reasonable care. That is, to avoid any harm which may occur due to failure of taking such care. For example, if a person is driving his car, he has to drive safely and within the speed limits in order to avoid accidents. In this case, a person gives his consent. Voluntary non-fit injuria means a person gives his consent to doing of an act which leads to him getting injured. Then even if an injury is caused by the other person, he cannot claim any damages from that person because here he has already given his voluntary consent. So, the consent of the plaintiff acts as a defense, and this defense is called voluntary non-fit injuria, which means to a willing person no injury happens. For example, if A has a bike whose brakes do not work and B, knowing about the condition of the bike, still chooses to sit on it with A driving it, and due to the failure of such brakes, they both sustain injuries in an accident. What happens here? A has a bike whose brakes do not work and B is knowing that condition. And at the same time, A driving it, and due to the failure of brakes, they both sustain injuries. B cannot claim relief from A because he had voluntarily consented to sit on the bike. Here comes the second example of Volenti non-fit injury is Hall vs. Brookland 1932. In this case, the plaintiff went to see a car race in which two cars collided with each other, and as a result of the collision, the plaintiff, who was sitting as an audience, was also injured when one of the cars flew into the audience. Here, the defense of voluntary non-fit injury was applied because the plaintiff had given his consent to such a risk by going to the race. Conclusion: voluntary non-fit injury is one of the defense under the law of torts in which the person who has committed a wrong is exempted from liability. Here, the person who has committed the wrong is always exempted from the liability because the victim of such a wrong gives his consent to the commission of such an act, and such a consent must be free for the successful application of this defense in a case. Thus, the consent of the plaintiff acts as a defense, and this defense is called voluntary non-fit injuria.